What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the official relaunch of Studio Time. And we are now a part of the Culture Nerd Podcast Network, which I'm very happy to announce. This is the first episode of the relaunch and the first episode under the Culture Nerd Network. Thank you guys for your patience while I work through this rebranding. And I now have a co-host, Mr. Justin Spett. What's going on? How you doing, man?
Good. Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm a little tired. Just got home from work. Just got done eating dinner. But I'm good. I'm good. I'm excited to get this going again. This was definitely one of my favorite things to do on the old version of my YouTube channel, and I'm very happy to do this again. This time it's going to be a little different. A lot of it is going to be the same, but it's going to be a little bit different. Going to be a little bit more structure, and I'm gonna try to keep it tighter to 1 hour because I've been known to go a long time. But I mean that's just we love movies so much, so we could talk about them all day.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I'm excited to be a part of this. You've been a part of Cinema Heroes now for a while, and it seemed like every time would hit stop recording on that, we would just go into a discussion on film, just random whatever, and
Yeah,
and
yeah.
both every time we'd be like, man, why didn't we record that? so so I'm excited to be part of this and talk about movies, man, because I could talk about movies all day long.
Yeah, yeah. This has been in the making for quite some time. Because, like you said, whenever we were in, we would just talk for like another 30 to 45 minutes, sometimes another hour.
Hmm.
And we wanted to do another podcast that focused more on deep dives, like film analysis and discussions on like broader topics about film rather than just movie reviews. And we'll still do a few movie reviews on here from time to time, but mostly the movie reviews will be on Cinema Heroes. The topic for tonight is movies that changed my life. This is a very, very exciting topic because we all have those movies that have resonated with us, that have given us a lasting imprint and kind of shaped how we view things, how we view people, how we live our lives to this moment. So without any further delay, let's go right into it. For me, one of the movies that changed my life, which I was just listening to an old episode of Cinema Heroes today, was The Matrix. That I mean that movie is one of the greatest movies of all time. Let me say that again for the people in the back. The Matrix is one of the best movies ever made. The world building is on another level, and it is one of the most layered movies as far as like the philosophy and the storytelling that I've ever seen. It's a phenomenal piece of work.
I 100% agree. I mean it was it had a huge impact not only on my life but also just on the film industry. I mean, so many movies copied it and parodied it for years to come. I mean, there were
Yeah.
so many kung fu movies suddenly became like a big kind of thing for a while, and they would, in my opinion, they weren't nearly as good because there was a reason for like the physics breaking in the Matrix. Whereas in
Mhm.
like a lot of movies to follow, it was just they could just do it,
Right.
and it just didn't work. But for me, I went into that movie not knowing anything. I had seen one small clip of Morpheus jumping from one building to another when he's first kind of training Neo, and I saw Keanu Reeves go whoa, and that was the only thing I'd seen. What the movie was about, and I it was probably one of the last times I just was completely blown away by a movie.
Yeah.
I walked out of that I walked out of that theater speechless, and I could not wait to go back and see it again. I think I went and saw it at least 2 more times. I yeah, I was obsessed with The Matrix. Actually, here's something funny. Uh, so I was really bad at math, right? And when The Matrix
As
came,
was I.
I was in 10th grade, I think. And
Uh-huh.
I think I was taking trigonometry, and we started to have to do matrices, and just because it was called matrix, I was like, "This is awesome," and I getting the highest score on that test, and my math teacher was like, I don't understand." Like, I did you just because this is called matrix, you did well on this. I was like, "Hey, man, I don't know either." And so it was it
I
kinda
mean, the two things are completely
I know, they
unrelated.
had nothing to do with each other, but I just was like, "Matrix?" Maybe I paid a
Sign me up.
tuition. Yeah, I don't know. It's really weird, but I was obsessed with that movie, uh,
Yeah, I mean,
for a
I mean,
while.
I'm obsessed with the franchise. I mean, I know a lot of people don't like the sequels. I love The Matrix Reloaded. I really like Matrix
Revolutions,
Revolutions.
yeah.
Resurrections, not so much, but I kind of have some respect for it because uh Lana Wachowski was pretty much giving WB the middle finger with that movie. So and at that time that regime deserved it. So for that
Yeah.
kudos to her for that. But yeah, I didn't see this in the theater. I was a little too young. I was 9 when this movie came out, so I didn't see it until it came out on VHS. I was at one of my mother's friends' house and they had it. From that day on, I was obsessed with the Matrix, like because it was everything that I was interested in. It was science fiction, alternative, alternate realities, and
Amazing
action
action.
movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it was just like it was everything a 9-year-old boy could dream of in a
It was
movie.
everything a
Um,
16-year-old boy could dream of too. That's I mean, fun fact about that too, you were just saying you watched it on VHS. The
mhm,
Matrix was actually the very first DVD I ever bought because I went to the store to buy it on
nice.
VHS, but they released the DVD first. The VHS, I guess, came out, I don't know, a couple weeks later or something, but I went to Media Play, I think, to buy it, and they didn't have it. They only had it on DVD, so I bought the DVD anyway because I was like, "Well, I'm not leaving here without the Matrix." Uh, and we didn't even own a DVD player at the time. My dad's laptop had a DVD-ROM, so we hooked his laptop to our TV so we could watch The Matrix that
Nice, nice.
night.
That was awesome. That was a big deal back in the
It
day.
was. It really was.
Oh man, but yeah, that movie is special, and like for me, it really showed what movies can be going forward in the 21st century. Because to me, that was probably the last great innovative blockbuster
Yeah,
um
I agree.
that we've had. I think before that was Jurassic Park, which was what, like 5 6 years before.
It's about 6 years, yeah, 93.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And before that, I don't even know. It's probably Star Wars before that.
And they've tried to do some stuff to be innovative over the last however many years, and it's not nothing has the same effect.
Yeah,
Like, Cameron is trying right now, Avatar:
yeah,
The
I was
Way of
gonna say
Water is
that.
out. He's got the 3 he's trying, 3D has almost kinda died out, and he's bringing it back with that, but
Mhm.
he's also doing the high frame rate, which I hate. It's something that I hope never catches on. I don't understand why James Cameron likes it.
Yeah.
I don't think it looks good. Um, and
Have
so
you seen
there
Way of Water yet?
I haven't, but I've seen movies in high frame rate, and the first Hobbit I saw in high frame rate, and it was awful.
Yeah,
Um,
it'll take some getting used to. So you know how Christopher Nolan movies go from the IMAX scenes to the regular
yeah,
scenes?
yeah,
That's how it is with frame rate in The Way of Water. It'll be a
gotcha.
really high frame rate and then it'll go back to like 30 or 24 frames per
24
second, and
frames.
it's
Yeah,
it, it's it, it takes some getting used to.
yeah. I heard actually that projectors can't go back and forth between 48 and 24. So what they did was for the 24 frames scenes, they just doubled the frames. So there's actually you know, two of the same frame, I guess 48 of them. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah.
Uh, so it's
So
just,
how
I
did
don't
they
know.
so they doubled the frame rate and then like played it back a little bit faster?
So
'Cause
they,
I
I
would
guess
assume that would make it a little bit longer if they played it back at the regular speed.
I don't know. I mean, I guess the digital projector or whatever is playing it at 48 frames per second, and so then the non-high frame rate scenes are still technically 48 frames, but it's every 2 frames are the same. All each two, like, it'll be same frame, and then it'll switch to a different frame. But but it'll
Same
be
frame.
same frame. Instead of 48 different frames, it's 24 doubled frame. I guess it's 48 doubled frames. It's hard to explain, but I mean if
My
that
head
makes sense.
hurts.
Yeah. I'm sorry, let's move on.
Oh man. But anyway, The Matrix is great.
Yes,
If you haven't seen it, you've been living under a rock, you should watch it.
right now.
Right
Turn
now.
this off and no, no, yeah, I can't argue at all that The Matrix is groundbreaking, life-changing. It's incredible. It's I almost feel bad for people if you haven't seen The Matrix and you're just now watching it this many years later. I don't think it'll have the same impact on you because you probably have seen movies that
Yeah.
have been influenced by The Matrix, and so
Yes.
I can't I you know, it's too bad you didn't get to see it in the theaters too because it was an amazing experience. That the lobby shootout scene,
Oh man.
I
Great
couldn't
scene.
believe what I was seeing,
Great
man.
scene.
It was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen.
For
It was
me,
awesome.
it's hard for me to pick a favorite uh scene out of that movie because like all the highlights
It's
are
all good.
equally as great as the last one.
Yeah.
So I guess I would have to say like the entire third act, because when I was a kid, I used to draw,
Yeah.
and I used to draw that subway fight all the
Oh,
time. I would
yeah.
just take different moments from the fight and draw 'em, and my favorite moment to draw was when they were in the air in bullet time shooting each other, and
Yes.
I love that. And like the bullet time was just so innovative, like because it was slow motion, but it was like the camera moved in real time, and like you could see the frames, and like
Right.
it was like nothing we'd ever seen before. It was familiar,
Absolutely.
but it was so different and new that it definitely left you wanting more.
Yes. Absolutely. And, the hype for The Matrix Reloaded was insane.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard about,
I love that movie.
yeah,
I know a lot of people don't really care for it, but I like it because to me it's my kind of movie. Very philosophical, even more than the first one,
yeah,
and it really analyzes what the Matrix is and why it exists and why the that world is the way it excuse me why that world is the way it is. And because I love the world so much, that movie, although it raised a lot of questions, it definitely answered some things. And I understand why people don't like the movie because it has a lot of exposition. I would say about 60 to 70% of the movie is talking and dialogue, and well,
mhm.
really monologues for real. If you think about
Architect
the
and stuff.
the
Yeah.
architect, yeah. And it's like if you're not paying attention, you won't follow it. It's not a get up and go to the bathroom type movie. You have to
Right.
sit there and actively pay attention to the Matrix
Yeah.
Reloaded.
Well, I mean, we did an episode of Cinema Heroes on this, and I've seen that movie probably a dozen times,
Yeah.
and you still blew my mind when you talked about you were like, "That is when the Matrix reloads," and I was like, "What?" Um, so yeah,
Yeah,
I don't like
if you guys haven't heard that episode, go listen to that episode on Cinema Heroes.
yeah,
That was one of my favorite episodes
mm,
to do on Cinema Heroes. So go check that out.
it
We
was
really go deep in
that was a lot of
Matrix
fun.
Reloaded.
And I don't like The Matrix Reloaded as much as the first Matrix, but I do still
Mhm,
really it's easily my favorite of the Matrix sequels.
mhm.
And I think the action set pieces in that movie are incredible as
Oh
well.
yeah, that's
Um,
fantastic.
and I mean, you cannot deny the highway chase scene is just breathtaking.
Oh,
So
it's so beautiful, and, like, it's that's a pretty long scene. I still want
yeah,
more. I still want it to be
I know.
longer. And the way that scene ends with Neo flying in like
Yes.
Superman and grabbing the key maker and Morpheus, oh my god. It's so beautiful.
It is
Excuse me
very
while I
cool.
go watch The Matrix Reloaded.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, once again, enough great things cannot be said about that movie and that franchise. It definitely shaped my interest as far as how I like to see movies and the type of movies I want to see, the type of stories that I like to be told, and the type of stories that I want to tell. Um, so yeah, that was a huge influence on me.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think the first movie that ever changed my life, and I, have gone on and on and on about this movie is Jurassic Park.
Oh yeah.
Like, we just mentioned about how it was pretty innovative. It
Hmm.
was one of the first movies to have the CGI dinosaurs. It was going to be stop motion animation, but they decided, who his name, what his name was, Dan Murin, I think, was like, I think we can do better, and
Hmm.
showed Spielberg the CGI, and they incorporated the CGI with the animatronics, and it's. But anyway, I was 8 years old, going on 9 years old when I saw that in the theater. So just about the same age as you when you saw The Matrix,
Hmm.
and it was like nothing I had ever seen before. I mean, it was, not to sound too cheesy, but it really opened my eyes as to the, like, kind of the magic of movies, what movies
Yeah.
could be.
Yeah.
And just to see dinosaurs on the big screen and looking so incredibly real, and it was like nothing I'd ever seen before, and I am still obsessed with it 30 years later. I can't get
Rightfully
enough.
so.
Yeah, I pretty much it's this is slowed because of my son being born, but before my son was born, anytime the Jurassic Park got re-released in the theater, I was like, I'm there. I was like, I want to see it on the big screen again. I'm there. Um, so yeah, I can't say enough good things about Jurassic Park. Steven Spielberg, I feel like is one of the greatest directors of all time, and Jaw. He on the soundtrack for Jurassic Park, he talks about how he and John Williams hadn't had as much fun making a movie as they had, or they hadn't had this much fun since they had made Jaws. Which, if you know anything about Jaws, he had a miserable time making Jaws because the shark never worked. But I guess maybe him and John Williams were having fun in post production. But
Well, see that's the thing about filmmaking, especially like people like Steven Spielberg. He is obsessed with movies and storytelling. So like for him, I could see even though the shark wasn't working and everything was going wrong, I could see Steven Spielberg thriving in that.
right,
And
yeah,
just being like just seeing it as a challenge and just taking the bull by the horns and I'm just buckling down and say I'm going to make a great movie no matter what. And
yeah,
I mean the result was the first blockbuster ever.
yeah. I mean, it still blows my mind that Spielberg was only 26, I think, when he made Jaws, and just the fact that, I mean, it was a blessing in disguise that that shark never worked, because he ended up not showing the shark throughout most of the film, which just made it
Mhm.
that much scarier.
Which
You know,
changed movies forever.
exactly. Yeah. And like you said, it was the first blockbuster ever. And I mean, the term blockbuster came about because of Jaws, because the lines were wrapped around the block. And
Around the block, yeah.
so, yeah, I mean, obviously I didn't get to see that one in the theater. That one came out before I was born, but Jurassic Park is, to me it's Spielberg's best film. I know that could be argued in terms of critically, I guess you could say Jaws
Mhm.
might be better, Schindler's List and things like
Schindler's
that,
List, yeah.
but to me, Jurassic Park is the best, and that's just because, I mean, it just spoke to me so much, and it still does, and I could pop that movie in and watch it from beginning to end anytime.
Yeah, I didn't get to see it in theaters. I was 3 years old when it came out, so I did grow up with it because it's my mother's favorite movie. She watches that movie more than anything. So we had the VHS growing up. My mother had all the Jurassic Park movies growing up. So it was just always there. But as I grew older, especially like in my 20s, like I really learned the appreciation of that movie and how it changed cinema, and just the cinematic accomplishment that it was cannot be overstated. And like I said, I'm just glad that I, even though I didn't see it in theaters, and didn't quite get that feeling that you had, I'm still grateful that I can appreciate how great it is. And that movie, it's not my favorite movie of all time, but it's definitely in my top 10, my top 5.
Right. Yeah, and I
My
think that's how I feel about Jaws, it's like I didn't get
Mhm,
to see Jaws, so I didn't really understand the magic behind Jaws, but I can still appreciate it, I understand how, it's an amazing achievement and it's an amazing movie, and I can understand how why some people, it's their favorite movie of all time and stuff, I can totally
mhm.
understand all of that. So, yeah, it's kind of this similar situation, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. That's a great segue into my favorite movie of all time, which is The Dark Knight. And when I saw that, man, my mind was blown, and literally my brain exploded and oozed out of my ears.
Yeah.
Um, anybody that knows me, Batman is my favorite superhero. Um, but I mean, so I saw Batman Begins. I didn't see it in theaters. I borrowed the DVD from a friend in high school. He let me see it. I was like, "Yo, that was one of the greatest movies I've ever seen." And then the trailer for The Dark Knight came out. And this was after Heath Ledger had been announced, and everybody was scratching their heads like,
Yeah.
Heath Ledger, what?
Right.
The guy from Brokeback Mountain?
As the
And
Joker?
as yeah, right.
Yeah,
Like
we just could not picture it. Yeah.
but then when he started talking in that trailer, I was like, I'm sold. I'm sold.
Mhm.
And we were in Florida, Orlando, Florida, me, my mom, and my grandmother on vacation. And it was during opening weekend. And I told them, I don't care what we do, I don't care what y'all do. On opening day, I'm going to see The Dark Knight. Drop me off, go do whatever, leave me alone for the next 3 hours. This is where I'll be. And I was locked in. I that that was one of the greatest cinematic experiences of my life, because like it just the great thing about that movie is the pacing. It never stops.
Mhm.
Once it gets going, it keeps going, and you don't really know when it's going to end. And it's just the tone of it, like they really went darker. Because Batman Begins was pretty grounded and serious, and it wasn't like Tim Burton dark, because Tim Burton dark is like weird dark,
Right.
but Batman Begins and Dark Knight Rises is dark in a more grounded sense. And Christopher Nolan just took that from Batman Begins and went even more realistic, like hyper realistic, some would say. And I was eating it up. Like it was the best thing that I had ever seen. Um, he he took Batman, and I mean he did it in Batman Begins as well, but he just gave him such an incredible arc of he's a hero that has to kind of not necessarily unlearn how to be a hero, but to be something more than that.
Right.
And not be a hero in the traditional sense, and make that sacrifice for the greater good, tarnishing his image and taking the blame for Harvey Dent, for his crimes, and just it really put Batman in a more in a deeper, uh what's the word I'm looking for? I guess a deeper, like a bigger light, for lack of a better term.
Right.
It was like a deconstruction of
It's
Batman.
a good way of putting it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I loved it. I loved it because they didn't make superheroes like that.
No, not
Superhero
I mean,
movies.
yeah, no, not at all. I mean, this was the first I mean, Batman Begins got good reviews, but this was the
Mhm.
first superhero movie that I could remember that got like a 94 whatever percent it has on Rotten
Yeah,
Tomatoes, where reviewers were actually saying like this is a good movie. Not just a good
yeah,
superhero movie, but a good
a
film.
good movie. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo a couple things you said, like Batman Begins. I saw Batman Begins in the theater and I was blown away by Batman Begins because the last 2 Batman movies were Batman Forever, which I like, and Batman and Robin, and this was Batman being taken seriously again, and it was
Mhm.
what, it was what Batman fans were craving, and, uh, and not only was it being taken seriously, but it felt very real. It had that, verisimilitude, that Batman and Robin and Batman Forever very much lacked.
Mhm.
And and so I loved Batman Begins. I saw it I think 3 or 4 times in the theater. And I went and saw I didn't see the teaser that just had the dialogue, and like
Yeah.
the logo. I watched
Yeah.
that online a number of times, but I went and saw I Am Legend pretty much specifically to see the Dark Knight teaser or the trailer. I wanted to see I Am Legend, but like I was like, I don't need to see it opening night. But I went and saw it opening night because I was like, I'm seeing the Dark Knight trailer on the big screen for the first time. It's funny because I went and I remember seeing it with my brother and I saw the Warner Brothers logo and I like nudged my brother and he goes, "Have you seen this trailer?" And I was like, "No, but this is it." And then the first thing you hear is Heath Ledger as the Joker, and it's like that first little quick shot of him, and I immediately was like, "This is gonna be the greatest movie I've ever seen." And that trailer, I watched that trailer probably a billion times. I could not get enough of it, and I should have stopped watching after that trailer, but I watched the next trailer that came out, and there might have been even
Mhm.
one. I think it was just one more after that, and that was it. It was in
Yeah, it
front of
was one
Iron Man.
more. Yeah.
Went and saw Iron Man and saw that trailer and was just like,
Yeah, that
"Oh
was
my,"
back in
and
the day before they started releasing 5 trailers per movie.
yes, yeah, it was just 3, yeah. And also that first trailer came out before Heath Ledger died,
Mhm.
and, I mean, it was probably a month before Heath Ledger died, and, I couldn't believe it. I mean, I was just like, "This interpretation of the Joker is," Jack Nicholson was the Joker in '89, and I remember when Heath Ledger was cast, or maybe even before Heath Ledger was cast, when they were just talking about the Joker being in the movie, a lot of us thought, "Nobody can beat Jack Nicholson, man. Jack
Mhm.
Nicholson set the bar so high. Nobody's gonna be better than Jack Nicholson." And then that trailer came out, and we all went, "Well," like, uh,
Like, I don't know about
"Man, this is a lot." I mean, because
that.
it was such a dark looking Joker. That shot of him, which now we know is after, Batman beats him up in the interrogation room and he's talking to that
Mhm.
one detective, So he's kind of leaning
Mhm.
against the wall. That one shot of him just was chilling. And so then a month later, Heath Ledger passes away. And so for me, that's another aspect of the movie that really kind of changed my life was for a long time I wanted to be an actor. In fact, I was in a play. I was actually in It's a Wonderful Life
Oh.
in December of 2007 when that trailer came out.
Mhm.
And I was kind of, I hadn't acted in a while. I had done a couple plays at this point and was kind of feeling that acting bug again. And when
Mhm.
Heath Ledger died and then seeing the movie and seeing him be the Joker really lit a fire under me and made me decide, you know what, I need to move to California and do this. And so that's really what kind of motivated me to make that move. Unfortunately, I didn't do a whole lot in California, but I live in Atlanta and there's plenty of opportunity here.
Plenty of opportunity.
It's something that I've kind of, my dream has changed a little bit over the years. I'm more kind of interested in the writing aspect now than the acting.
Mhm.
It's still there, and I still think I would like to do it, but now that I've got a 1-year-old and everything, it's a little bit harder. I think maybe, if I can win that lottery tonight, I we'll see. I can go on auditions and stuff. And then to talk about like the way you were talking about it, this was also a Batman we'd never seen before. Not only
Mhm.
just the deconstruction of it, but it was also, and granted, I know they cheated. We didn't really get a Batman that could turn his head until Affleck, but he had that streamlined suit. I love the Batman Begins suit, but when you see it in the beginning of the Dark Knight, it looks so bulky. Uh,
Yeah.
and so his Dark Knight suit just looked super. It just worked, and the fact that
Mhm.
he could kind of turn his head and he still looked menacing and imposing in it and everything. Yeah, man, I went and saw that movie. I want to say 8 times in the theater, and I saw it at least 3 times in the IMAX. And talk about life changing. This was first, I guess you could say, narrative feature that used IMAX cameras for certain scenes. If any movie that is shot with IMAX film cameras that can be displayed in the true 1.43 to 1 aspect ratio, I will pay extra for that any day of the week over 3D or high frame rate or whatever. That was
I
innovative
agree.
to me.
I agree.
And I wish they would re-release that movie in IMAX yearly because I would go see it every year.
Unfortunately, I did not see it in IMAX. I was in Florida at the time, so I didn't even know where an IMAX theater was,
Yeah,
and that was back when I was living in Ohio, and I wouldn't have been able to see it in IMAX unless I drove 2 hours
yeah,
to Columbus, and
yeah. I mean, we
that wasn't happening. My mother was not going to do that.
right. We saw it at the Mall of Georgia, which is a good hour away from us. But it's worth the drive. Although I don't think the Mall of Georgia does film projection anymore, so I don't think you see
They
the
don't.
full, which is a bummer. So now the closest IMAX to you and I is Pooler, Georgia,
Cooler.
which is about 4 hours away. A little bit
A
over
little bit
4 hours,
more.
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. I almost went and saw Avatar: Way of Water in Pooler, Georgia, but
Oh wow.
I wanted to get back home
Yeah, yeah,
because we were down there seeing family, and it got time. It got the day came that we were getting ready to go. I was like, yeah, I just want to go home.
I hear you. I don't
So
know if
one day we'll catch one down there, but
you and I should drive down there to see Oppenheimer when it
yes,
comes out.
absolutely, book
Yeah.
it. It
I'll do
has
my
to
best.
happen.
We should do it for sure. Road trip.
Yeah, we should definitely do that road trip. Me and Mrs. Stu might stay the night.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I mean, it's a long enough drive. We go down there, get a hotel, see the movie, stay the night, and then drive home the next day. That's what I was
Yeah,
thinking.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Um, yeah, that needs to happen. That was a great idea. But yeah, I mean, what more great things can be said about the Dark
Right.
Knight? It's it's my favorite movie for a reason. And, I mean, Batman was already that guy, and
Yeah.
then to put arguably the greatest superhero of all time in arguably the greatest superhero movie of all time. I mean, it
Right.
just it had no choice but to be straight fire.
Yeah.
So
I'm still bitter that the Academy Awards did not nominate it for Best Picture. I understand
as am I.
they're kind of snobs about that type of stuff. They don't typically nominate movies like that, but yeah, that year it should have been nominated. I'm glad Heath Ledger was nominated and won. You
Mhm.
could argue that he won only because he died, but I think it was
Absolutely.
well deserved,
That
though.
that's one thing that people don't want to talk about. Death magnifies legacy.
Right,
It's bittersweet. It's a double-edged sword because a lot of those legacies, a lot of people that that passed before their time, they absolutely deserve the flowers, but
right,
a person shouldn't have to die to get those flowers. You know what I'm
right. I
saying?
agree. I, I, if I'm being 100% honest, if he had not died, I don't even know if he had been nominated, just
He
because
wouldn't have been nominated. Nope.
the Academy doesn't go for those performances. I know Joaquin Phoenix now has won for Joker, but that was 14 years later, 13 years later, or whatever. So
Mhm.
just historically, the Academy Award thinks they're above the superhero genre. And
Mhm.
so I am glad that he won it, but I agree, it's he should have won it anyway, but I don't think he probably would have even been nominated for it had he lived. I think they realized, I mean, it's an Academy Award worthy performance, but because of the and as I love the Oscars, I watch the Oscars every year, but they can be a little bit snobbish, I guess,
Oh yeah,
and they
very
just
yeah. They
they
very snobbish.
they're
They can
political.
be very political. Yeah,
Yeah,
because at essentially whatever movie lobbied the hardest
right.
gets the win,
And I really
and
wish
I don't like that.
I don't like that either. I really wish the Oscars. I mean, we could have a whole episode on the Oscars probably, but I really
Right.
wish the Oscars um would make it illegal or whatever for campaigning. And I realize campaigning is part of the process. Like some movies might not get even watched or heard of if they didn't campaign. But I mean, they send out so many screeners to those people. They
Yeah.
don't need to campaign. Just send the movies. Say these are the ones that we would like you to watch maybe for best picture or whatever.
Hmm.
These are the ones we want you to watch for best actor. Like you could write that on the little screener and that's all the
Yeah.
campaigning you should be able to do. That's my
Yeah.
opinion.
What I think that they should do, like campaigning is fine, but like just do it during the original theatrical run.
Right,
Like
rather
they
than
they always kick it into overdrive for award season,
yeah,
and then these movies that you've never heard of are all of a sudden all over your TV screen and on
right,
ads and stuff. It's like I'd like Coda. I had never heard of Coda before award season. Now I don't know. I haven't seen the movie, so I can't comment on the quality of movie, but it really goes to show how political it really is because
right,
it wasn't even a thing until award season unless you are a hardcore cinephile.
right. Streaming services have made it really hard because I used to consider myself a hardcore cinephile, and now I
Mhm.
can't keep up with all the movies that are released because there are so many
There's so
movies on
many.
Netflix and then Amazon and then Apple TV Plus and
Mhm.
it's just they get these small theatrical windows so they become eligible for the Academy Awards.
Mhm.
And it's just it's the same thing. Like I had heard of Coda, but probably only because of because it got nominated. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't remember. But a lot of these movies also wait to like if a studio really thinks they have an Academy Award winner, they won't release it until December because the Academy also is notorious for having a short memory. So anything released before November, they don't they're like, "Ah, forget it. That movie's old." I don't know. It's just Get Out was one of the very few exceptions. That movie I think was released in February or March
Mhm.
and was recognized at the Oscars, gotten for Best Picture. Jordan Peele won for original screenplay. So, I
Mhm.
mean, that was one of the few exceptions. But most of the time, if your movie is released in the beginning of the year, forget it.
Mhm. Now, I'm gonna say this: if the Batman does not get a nomination for at least best cinematography and best direction, we riot. We burn the Academy down all the
I
way
think
to
it
the ground.
also, I think it also needs to get a best makeup effects
Mhm.
nomination just for Colin Farrell's penguin makeup.
Oh man, whew. He was unrecognizable.
Yeah, exactly. I
If
think
I
if
didn't
that it,
already know that it was Colin
I would have
Farrell,
never
I
known.
wouldn't have been able to tell.
I know.
A
I guess I need to talk about one of the next movies that changed my life. Uh, we've kind of gone off topic a little bit
little
as we
bit.
do. I had a list but I can't find my phone, and so I remember this was one of the movies on my list, and it's my third favorite. So my top two favorite movies are Jurassic Park and The Dark Knight. This is my
Okay.
third favorite film. Oh no, I'm sorry. It used to be my third favorite film. Psycho is now my third favorite film because I can't deny the amazingness of Psycho. Anyway, this used
Psycho
to
is
be
fantastic.
yeah, I love Psycho. I don't know how life-changing Psycho was for me, but I love that movie. But anyway, this movie it was a directorial debut from a little-known director. I don't know if you've heard of him. His name is Quentin Tarantino. Uh, and it
Not
was
ringing any bells. I don't
nah,
know.
I don't think so. It's Reservoir Dogs. I think I saw Pulp Fiction before I saw Reservoir Dogs. I had heard of Reservoir Dogs. It came out when I was too young to see it in the theater. It was
Mhm.
92. So I saw it way, way after the fact. It just kind of blew me away. It's a dialogue heavy, there's a little bit of a mystery to it. I don't want to say too much because I know Stu, you haven't seen it, but it was
Yeah.
It's told non-linearly, and so some secrets are kind of revealed as the movie progresses. It
Mhm.
was violent. The dialogue was, Quentin Tarantino's beautiful dialogue, and I just was blown away by it. For a long time, I wanted to make oh, now I remember some of the movies on my list. Anyway, for a long time, I wanted to make movies like that. I was like, "These crime kinda gangster movies, these are amazing. This is what I wanna do." And, it's interesting because Quentin Tarantino kinda did 2 of them. He did Reservoir Dogs and he did Pulp Fiction. Well, I guess Jackie Brown kinda falls in that category, but then after that, he was like, "I'm done with these, like, crime movies." And then
Yeah.
granted, he's got criminals in his movies, but it's just he's done such a he's gone in such a different direction.
Yeah. Like all of his movies are completely different from the
Yeah,
last movie.
right. Which is great. And I think he should,
Oh yeah,
obviously keep
for
doing that.
sure.
But Reservoir Dogs really just it spoke to me when I saw it for the first time, and it was I just, I loved it. I ended up buying I think it was the 10th or 15th anniversary. It's probably the 10th anniversary. They put out a DVD and there was nothing different about the DVD whatsoever other than the slipcover. They made
Mhm.
different slipcovers for each of the characters, and I was like, "Well, I gotta buy them all." And so I had like 7 copies of that movie on DVD that was all the same, just different slipcovers.
Why would you not buy them all?
Right, exactly. I didn't understand why people were like, "Why do you have 7 copies of this movie?" I'm like, "Look at them."
Because they're all different slipcovers.
Right.
Why don't you have 7 different copies of this movie?
What, did you only buy 1? Yeah, it was, so then, of course, I bought, then at the 15th anniversary, it had like a looked like a gas can, and when you pulled the DVD out, it actually was in like a matchbook. It was very cool. And
Nice.
then I bought it on Blu-ray, and now I've got it on 4K, which I love the slipcover for 4K, which is,
Noise. Lionsgate?
yes, it is indeed Lionsgate.
Yes.
So very cool. Yeah, it's hard, hard to talk about this movie or hard to have a conversation, I guess, about this movie since you haven't seen it. I would just say it needs to be on your list of movies to watch in 2023.
Yes, I'm going to be making my way through Tarantino's filmography in January. Yeah, but no, I started doing this this year. I was watching 100 movies that I hadn't seen before. This year I did kind of cheat because I did count theatrical releases, but that was just to get me in the habit of
Logging the
watching
movies.
watching
Okay.
different movies and logging the movies. Now I feel like I got a little bit more of a handle on it, so I won't be counting theatrical releases. Yeah, and I counted those movies because it's hard to watch 100 movies when you
It
got a
is.
family,
Well, yes, that's true. I'm actually
a
going to
family and a
attempt to
full time
do
job
right.
and a
I'm
podcast,
gonna
2 podcasts.
2 podcasts, that's right. I'm gonna attempt to do the challenge this year, and I'm gonna since I don't get to the theater very much, I'm going to attempt not to do any new releases, but, we'll
Mhm.
see. The first 3 months of the year are very busy for me, so I feel like I'm gonna end up playing catch up after April.
Hey, 2 movies a week. That's all you got to do.
Right,
Two
and
movies a
I
week.
feel like it's possible, so I'm really looking forward to it. There's a couple movies I've thought about watching recently, and I'm like, "No, no, no, I'm gonna wait till January and add it to the 100,
I did that too. I got
So,
one more movie left for this year, and
nice.
I'm waiting on purpose until December
December
31st
31st.
to watch my last movie.
That's
I
awesome.
had a friendly wager with our buddy AJ. He didn't think I was gonna make it, and I was like,
Nice.
"I'll show you, buddy."
That's motivation right there. That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome. Love
And
AJ.
I didn't even have any terms. I just wanted to prove that I could do it and just gloat.
Right,
But
right, right.
if I don't watch that last movie before December 31st, he's going to make me watch a movie that features Aquafina, a movie of his choosing,
Oh, wow.
because he knows how I feel about Aquafina.
Aquafina,
Um, yeah, I'm
her
not
biggest
too
fan.
fond of her as an actor. It's hard. It's actually very difficult to watch Aquafina on screen for me.
Oh,
At least in Shang-Chi.
right, yeah. Well, she's somebody kind of like we talked about this on the Kick-Ass episode, who is kind of the same in every movie. She's just herself basically.
Mhm.
In each, she's not. There's not like a different character there. It's kind of like Clark Duke, I think, was what we were
Yeah.
talking about with him. And so eventually, the shtick kind of gets a little old. So I'm curious
But the
how.
thing is, it like that doesn't really bother me that she just plays herself because a lot
Yeah,
of actors do that. Chris Pratt does that.
yeah, that's
Will
true.
Smith did that for a lot of his career, and it worked out. Even I guess Keanu Reeves to a certain extent, plays himself most of the time. But I don't know, man. She's just
I think it's a little
they
different
they
when
they
it's
call they th- they
when you're.
call those kinds of characters windbags, and she just keeps
Oh yeah,
talking
yeah,
and talking and then
right.
constantly joking around. Like I get that those characters exist to break the tension, but for the love of God, like ease
Yeah.
up, like pump the brakes.
Did you see The Farewell? I think it was called no, was that what it's called? Yeah, The
Yeah,
Farewell, I think.
I didn't see it. I heard she was pretty good in that, and she does not play that type of character in that movie.
Correct. Yeah, that's probably the best Aquafina movie because she kind of goes against type and is actually more of a dramatic role, and she did actually a pretty great job in that one. But yeah, the character she plays in Shang-Chi, is the same pretty much character she played in Ocean's 8 and, whatever else. And so
She
it's
was in
yeah,
Ocean's
it's
8.
yeah.
Good to know. Won't be watching that.
Unless, well, I guess you won't have to since you won the bet. But I was gonna say unless AJ makes you watch it.
Well, I was gonna watch it because I wanted that's the only one in the series that I haven't seen yet.
Right.
Not so much now.
It's not as good as the other Ocean's movies anyway. But
Nah, none of them are as good as the first one.
correct. Um, the second one I used to really hate, but I went back and watched it years ago, and there's elements of that movie that I actually really love. The music, the cinematography, I think is really good.
Mhm.
It's in my opinion, I heard somebody like praise this scene a while back, and I was like, "What?" But in my opinion, the whole movie is ruined by the Julia Roberts looks like Julia Roberts scene with Bruce
Oh
Willis. I
yeah,
hated that scene.
because
Anyway,
it went so meta.
yeah, it was terrible. Real quick before we move on, I will say now that I've gotten older, um, I think Pulp Fiction is actually a better movie than Reservoir Dogs, but Reservoir Dogs was my number one favorite movie for a long time until I kind of really had to step back and go, well, is it better than Jurassic Park? And kind of had to rearrange my top five movies. It's not even, I don't even know if it's in my top five anymore, um, but I can't deny that it had an impact on my life.
Nice, nice. I'm gonna move on to a more obscure choice, and that is Darren Aronofsky's The Fountain. That is one of the most beautiful movies I've ever seen. That is a fantastic story. It is a high concept fantasy love story, sci-fi. Like it's a lot going on in that movie, but the story is told so beautifully. It takes place in three different timelines and three different protagonists, but they're all played by Hugh Jackman, and it's just that movie is wonderful. It's beautifully shot. Rachel Weisz gives a great performance as well as Hugh Jackman. That's one of his best performances, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, and the music for that movie is gorgeous. It is so pleasing to the ear. I saw that movie during a time when I was watching a lot of different kinds of movies. I would just go to the library and just come home with a stack of DVDs of just whatever was there.
Yeah.
Um, so most of the movies that I've seen in my life, I watched over that like 2, 3, 4 year period of just going to the library every day after school, and that was one of them, and definitely definitely changed how I saw filmmaking and how stories can be told in such a non-traditional way, but it can be told like so beautifully, but complex at the same time. Because I'm not gonna lie, it took me a few watches to get it, but like the movie was so unique that I was drawn to it. Like I watched it. I think I watched it 3 times that week. And because I was so interested by I wanted to understand the movie more. And it really wasn't until maybe like 2 years ago that I finally got like what was going on like well at the end of the movie, because the first 2 acts are pretty straightforward for the most part. There are some complicated things going on, but the third act was where I was lost. But then I realized that the the whole like spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, the whole cosmonaut thing, or with cosmonaut actually whatever
Futuristic,
whatever he
yeah,
was, yeah,
yeah,
the futuristic part was Hugh Jackman's ending to his wife's book, Izzy's book.
right,
And once I realized that, I was like, yo, this movie is a
yeah.
5 out of 5.
Yeah, absolutely. We had it sounds like we had very similar experiences. I saw this in the theater, and the marketing for the movie, I don't know if the studio must not have known how to market the movie to a wide audience, and so they made it seem like something it wasn't. It seemed like, if I remember correctly, it really made it seem like Hugh Jackman's character had figured out how to be immortal, and
Hmm.
so they really made it seem like his character in the past was the same character in the present who was the same character in the future. It was like
Right, right.
he was an immortal character. And so so I thought it had something to do with, he had found the fountain of youth or something, but I should have known. It's Aronofsky. It's not going to be that simple. And
Whatever you think it is, it's not.
right, right, exactly. And so I went and saw the movie. I was super excited about it because I'm a huge fan of Requiem for a Dream and Pi. And I
Requiem
walked
for a
in.
Dream. That's a heavy movie, man.
It is a very heavy movie, but it is a great movie.
Yeah.
But I walked out of the theater scratching my head going, what was that?"
The hell
And
did I
I
just
didn't.
watch?
Right, exactly. And so I went home and, I Googled it, probably, I don't know. I found a forum, I remember, and somebody explained about how, um, Hugh Jackman's character took over writing the book, and because he's such a scientist, the book kinda took a turn and became very scientific and all this stuff, and I just was like, "Oh."
Oh.
And I watched it again, and it blew me away. It's the same thing, like, once those dots were connected, it just became this beautiful movie,
Yeah.
and for a long time, I thought it was Hugh Jackman's best performance. Now, I mean, he's done so many good performances now that it's hard to choose just one, but,
I think his best might be Prisoners, for at least for me.
yeah, that's I
Because
forgot
I,
about
I
that one.
haven't I haven't I haven't seen Les Mis.
Yeah,
I'm not really a huge fan of
musical, yeah.
musical, at least the musicals that is just wall to wall singing.
Right,
It's
yeah.
not for me. But of what I've seen, Prisoners is probably his best performance.
Yeah, I'd probably
'Cause
agree with
he
that.
knocked it out of the park.
Yeah. Les Mis was the one that was kinda coming to my brain, but I forgot about Prisoners, yeah, you might be right. So, yeah, I can't agree more with you about The Fountain. The music, Clint Mansell score is amazing. I used to use one of the tracks. I used to edit wedding videos, and I would put that music in people's wedding videos. Um, so, yeah, it's such an amazing movie.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Do you have any obscure choices?
I do. I have one. It came to me when I was thinking of Reservoir Dogs, so I know we're coming close to the hour mark, so I'll try to be fairly quick. But this was for a long time when I was in my early 20s, when I was in college, I wanted to be. I had kind of changed dreams again. Went from acting to directing,
Mhm.
and I discovered this movie called El Mariachi, directed by Robert Rodriguez.
Hey.
And Robert Rodriguez shot it when he was 23 years old, I think, on a budget of $7,000 in Mexico. Just him and his friends. Basically, all of his friends were actors, and when they weren't actors, they were pushing him in a wheelchair to get the dolly shot and stuff like that. Uh, he wrote a great book. It's actually just like his journal entries at the time, but there's a great book called Rebel Without a Crew that he wrote or published, and it's all about the making of that movie. And it actually starts off, I think, with him. The way he raised the $7,000 was he joined one of those like medicine trial groups. So he was in like a hospital taking a drug and checking the side effects for it. And so they paid him 7 grand to do the trial, and he had to stay on site. And so he just when he was like in his little dorm room, he just
Mhm.
wrote the script for El Mariachi while he was doing this clinical trial or whatever.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I need to read that book.
It's a great book. I lent it to a friend of mine, so I don't own it anymore. I need to buy another copy. But
So you gave it to a friend.
I gave it to a friend. Yes, that's true. It was supposed to be a loan, but I gave it to a friend. But yeah, that movie blew me away. Because one of the things about me is I consider myself an extroverted introvert. I like being an actor. I like being on stage. I like performing, but at the same time, I'm not really great in like social situations, and I don't really consider myself somebody to kind of like take charge and be the leader in a group and stuff. And so
Mhm,
being a director made me a little, I wanted to be a director. I felt like I had a vision and, wanted stories to tell, but I also was like, I don't want to work with a bunch of people I don't know and things like that. And
mhm,
so Robert Rodriguez was really inspiring to me because he was kind of similar. It wasn't so much that he didn't want to work with people he didn't know. He didn't want to fail in front of people he didn't know. And so he wanted to do everything himself. And that's one of the things that I really liked about Robert Rodriguez for a long time. He writes his own movies, he directs them, he produces them, he edits them, he composes his own music, he does his own he has his own special effects company that, works in
mhm.
his home, I think that so he does everything. And that was kind of what I wanted to do. I wanted to kind of do it all myself as much as I could, because that just sounded like the most fun to me, and
Mhm,
would make me feel more comfortable rather than being in charge of a large group of people that I don't really know.
mhm.
I do think now that that's kind of one of Robert Rodriguez's downfalls. He has collaborated more. Like he did Alita Battle Angel, and that was a movie that he didn't write. I don't think he was his own director
He
of
did
photography
did
for
that with,
that.
James Cameron, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like the last Machete Kills, I remember you could just tell watching that movie. Like there's a scene towards the end where Machete, I think, comes out of like something happens. He's in the water. He's coming out of the water like onto the beach, and Charlie
Mhm.
Sheen starts talking to him, and you could just tell Charlie Sheen was not there on the same day. Like he's just the two shots. You could just tell. And that's one of Rodriguez's things is he's like, it doesn't matter now. I'll shoot him one day, shoot him. He's very creative, and one of the things I really appreciated about El Mariachi was because he had no money when problems arose, he had to figure out creative ways to get around it rather than just being able
Mhm.
to throw money at it. And not to say that he throws money at his problems now, but I think he throws visual effects at his problems. And so I think he's gone down in quality a little bit, at least to this last couple of movies.
Yeah, that takes a little bit of the magic out
Exactly.
of
Yeah.
the filmmaking.
But El Mariachi, it's not like an amazing movie by any means. Um, but watching it, knowing that he shot it for 7 grand, with him and just a couple other people, it's a pretty impressive little movie. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I haven't seen it, but I will definitely check it out. I'll probably watch that during my 100 movies
Yeah, you should.
for 2023.
It
Um,
has 2 sequels, Desperado and then Once Upon a Time in Mexico. So Antonio
mhm,
Banderas is cast as the main character in those 2 movies. He's obviously not the main character in El Mariachi. But
mhm.
have you seen either of those?
No, I have not.
Well, there you go. Now you got 3 movies added to your list for 2023.
All right. So yeah, I think we're gonna wrap that segment up for movies that changed our life. We listed some great movies. If you are familiar with the old version of Studio Time, we did draft time at the end of each episode, and that is making a return. And the category for draft time is build your own tearjerker. Now, I do have to put a disclaimer out there. Justin and I recorded this episode already, and because I am a perfectionist and I overthink, we are recording it again and pretending to have a new conversation. Um,
We're doing quite well.
so we're doing quite well. Um, it just consider it a glitch in the matrix. It's deja
That's
vu.
right.
Um, uh, we already played this game. We already did draft time, and we made our choices. So we're gonna have to do it over again, but without picking any of the choices that we did before, which makes it harder. So, for those of you that are not familiar, the draft time rules are the host and the guest will take turns making picks from the featured draft pool. Uh, First time guests will go first. Once a pick is selected, it is immediately taken off the board. Because we don't have any guests, it's just the host. Um, I will let Justin go first. So the category is build your own tearjerker. We will be doing 5 rounds.
Yeah.
So lead actor, supporting actor, writer, director, composer.
I'm
There you
trying
go.
to think of my lead actor. Should I tell people what my previous choice was? Do we want to do that, or just not, or just take that off?
Uh, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. So my previous choice was Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman's off the table now. So I'm
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of um I I, I think this actor is very strong. I don't know if he's been in any tearjerkers, but I'm gonna go with it anyway because he popped into my brain and I'm having trouble thinking of anybody else. And so I'm gonna go with Michael Shannon.
Who? Michael Shannon. Good choice. Good choice. Let's see. A lead actor for me. You know what? I wasn't even thinking about draft time until uh
About
three
10
minutes
seconds ago.
ago when I
Yeah.
when I when I said we were gonna go into the segment. So well, I'll start by saying this. My first choice when we did this the first time was Jonathan Majors.
Yes.
And
Great choice.
oh, fantastic choice. I really want to pick him again.
Really wish you could pick him again.
But you know what? I'm going to go. Mm, mm-mm. I'm gonna go for someone similar who he has an upcoming movie with in March, and that is Michael B. Jordan.
Nice. I really need to
And
watch Creed 2 before Creed 3 comes out.
absolutely, Creed 2 is great. The Creed movies are severely underrated. I'd much prefer uh Jonathan Majors over Michael B. Jordan as far as acting ability. But Michael B. Jordan has a sense of authenticity
Yeah.
that cannot be duplicated. While I think Jonathan Majors is the more skilled actor, um, like I said, Michael B. Jordan's authenticity is nothing to be scoffed at. So
That's
Michael B. Jordan.
absolutely true. Nice. Cool. I think for supporting actor, I'm gonna go with an actress. Um, and they've actually done a movie together, but I'm gonna go with Jessica Chastain. They did Take Shelter
Ooh,
together already,
nice.
but I think they'd be a good pairing, and she's a strong actress too.
Very good choice. Very good choice. I'm gonna go with an actress too. I think I'm gonna go with Naomi Harris.
Oh, interesting.
She is in my opinion, she's a very underrated actor,
Hmm.
and she's a chameleon. She's almost like Gary Oldman esque, where she like just becomes whoever she's playing, and you forget that it's Naomi Harris.
Right.
Um, Two movies that come to mind: uh, Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, and Skyfall. She played
Yeah.
Miss Moneypenny.
Moneypenny. Yeah.
Two characters on opposite ends of the spectrum. I didn't even realize that Naomi Harris was in Pirates of the Caribbean until I read her filmography after seeing Skyfall. I
Oh
was
wow.
like, there is no way that is the same person, but indeed it was. And I was like, yeah, you like she got it. So Naomi Harris for my supporting actor. All right, so we
Is
are
she in?
going
She's
to
in
writer.
Moonlight, right? Is
Yeah,
Naomi Harris in
she's in
Moonlight?
Moonlight. I didn't
Yeah,
see Moonlight, but yeah, she's in Moonlight.
she's yeah. Well, again, if you just comparing Skyfall to Moonlight, two completely different characters, and she does
Hmm.
an amazing job in both. All right, so screenwriter. My previous choice was Eric Roth, who's the
Hmm.
screenwriter behind Forrest Gump. He wrote The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. He's written a lot of stuff. He co-wrote Dune. Stu assumed I was going to pick Aaron Sorkin last time, and now I'm kind of tempted to pick Aaron Sorkin, but I almost feel like I should choose somebody else. But let's see. Let me think about it for just a second. But I don't know who else I would choose. Let's see. I know. I also feel like when you're put on the spot like this, you just can't you can't think of anybody's names.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's. I mean, that's the magic of draft time.
Right? Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I guess I'm gonna go with Aaron Sorkin. He's the only name that I can really think of at the moment. I love Aaron Sorkin's dialogue. I'm a real big fan of dialogue heavy films. Um, his Steve Jobs, you know, screenplay I think is incredible. Actually, most of
Hmm.
his movies I think are just like the dialogue is like music,
Yeah.
and it's
So for
I
me, it's
think
Social Network.
yes, the Social
Yeah,
Networks is amazing too. So I'm gonna go with Aaron Sorkin.
you would pick Aaron Sorkin. I feel like that's cheating.
I know. It almost kind of is. I almost feel like Aaron Sorkin shouldn't be on the table either.
Oh
I can choose
man.
somebody else. Let's see.
No, no, you're fine. You good. You good. Don't change it on account of me. Before I was gonna I had picked David Ayer when we recorded this the first time, and I really wish I could pick him again, but I'm not gonna do that. Oh man, this is hard. This is really hard. Um, you know what? Um I'm gonna go. I know he hasn't. I think he has yet to write something without his brother, but I'm gonna go with Jonathan Nolan.
Nice. Oh, that's a great
Um,
choice.
because he's very good at wi- he approaches the story as like puzzles, so he's
Hmm.
very good at putting the pieces together to make a cohesive yet subversive story. So I'm gonna go with Jonathan Nolan.
That's cool. I don't know if he's done any movies without his brother, but he has done TV without his brother because he was behind that show Person of Interest, and he also is the
Oh yeah.
showrunner, showrunner of Westworld.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yep. That's a good choice. Great choice, Jonathan Nolan.
Thank you.
So now it's director.
Director.
Alrighty. My original choice was Damien Chazelle, director of La La Land and Whiplash and the current Babylon, which is not doing well, I guess, because Avatar. So my next choice, this was a hard one. I wasn't sure who to choose, but I like this director, and I think he's got a very diverse filmography. He's not necessarily a director whose name I see, I'm like, oh, I gotta see it. But
Mhm.
he's made some very solid films, and that's Sam Mendes, the director of Road to Perdition and American Beauty, Skyfall, Revolutionary Road. So
Come
that's
on, dude. You killing me. You killing me. Sam Mendes, bruh. He made my favorite war film of all time, 1917. I
1917. Yeah,
love
that's right.
that movie. That's a phenomenal choice.
Thank you. Thank you.
My original choice, last time I picked Gabriel Muccino,
Hmm.
who directed Pursuit of Happiness, which is also a movie that changed my life. I I love that movie. It just solidified. People say all the time that you can do anything you want. You can grow up to be whatever, and
Yeah.
we hear it so much,
Right.
especially when we're a kid, that it starts to fall on deaf ears. But
Yeah.
that movie is the ultimate example of you can do whatever you want, no matter the circumstances.
Yeah.
Um, but back to the draft. For director, this one is hard because there's so many to pick from. So to narrow it down is damn near impossible. Man, you had a great choice, man. I'm so jealous. I am so jealous. You know what? I'm gonna go with Francis Lawrence.
Oh, interesting. That's a really interesting choice.
And I picked Francis Lawrence because of Hunger Games Catching Fire, which is the best Hunger Games movie. Argue with your mama. Um, uh,
Probably agree with that.
yeah, the Catching Fire is so well directed, and because one, it's well written and it's well directed. So like once they get to the the actual Hunger Games, which is like right in the middle of the movie,
Hmm.
maybe a little bit past the middle, but like they he does such a fantastic job building up to that moment, and then spoiler alert, when Lenny Kravitz's character gets killed, it's a punch to the gut, and then the Hunger Games begin. It is such
Right.
an
Yeah. Yeah.
incredible sequence, and it doesn't even give you time to mourn his character because Lenny Kravitz he plays a very likable character, and Lenny Kravitz himself is just a very likable person. So you
Sure. Yeah.
automatically you automatically like that guy, and then to see him uh get beat up and die right before uh
The
Katniss's
games begin.
eyes,
Yeah.
and then the Hunger Games begin
Yeah.
like immediately after that. It was just I thought that was the way he directed it was so fantastic. She rises up out of the ground and sees all the other contestants, and they're standing in the middle of the water. It was so well shot, so well composed, and my movie needs to have a moment like that where it's
Yeah.
just a punch to the gut, and it doesn't let up. It just keeps going and it gets worse. I need that in my movie. So
That's awesome.
I'm gonna pick Francis Lawrence. On to composer. Last round.
So for my previous choice, I had Clint Mansell, who did the music for The Fountain, as
Yes,
well as
yes.
Requiem for a Dream and several other
Yes.
things. I almost went with Thomas Newman, who's another great choice, I think.
1917. See,
uh,
you gonna get Sam Mendes and Thomas
I
Newman
know, I
and
know.
Aaron Sorkin. That man, bro.
Well, I'm not gonna because the Aaron Sorkin was, like you said, was almost a cheat, and I told you about Thomas Newman last time. I feel like that's also kind of a cheat, so I'm not gonna go with Thomas Newman. I'm gonna pick somebody else, and I'm still trying to figure out who that's going to be. Who should do? I'm looking at like my movies to try to kind of remember some composers here. This is kind of a different choice, I suppose, but I like a few of his scores. He's not. I wouldn't say he's in my top 5 composers, but I'm gonna go with John Ottman, who did Superman Returns. He also did Halloween H2O. He did some of it, I guess. I guess Marco Beltrami did a little bit of that movie too, but he did The Usual
That's who I thought you were
Suspects.
gonna pick. I thought you were gonna
Marco
pick Marco
Beltrami.
Beltrami.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna go with John Ottman. Interesting. I don't know
John
why, but
Ottman.
that's kind of that's who I'm gonna choose.
Nice, nice.
I tried to pick somebody who
I'm gonna
wasn't like a big name. I didn't want to go with Hans
yeah,
Zimmer or John Williams, or something like that.
yeah,
So
yeah. Because I'm tempted to pick Alan Silvestri, but I'm not gonna do
I almost picked him too. Yeah.
that. I think I'm gonna go with Ludwig Göransson.
Nice.
Ludwig Göransson.
Yeah.
He's very eclectic, and he like no two scores sound the same. And he's very good at the big bombastic scores as
Right.
well as quieter moments as well. So I think I'm gonna go with him.
Nice. That's awesome. Good choice.
At the end of the fifth round, we have Build Your Own Tearjerkers. Justin has Michael Shannon, Jessica Chastain, Aaron Sorkin, Sam Mendes, and John Ottman. As for me, I have Michael B. Jordan, Naomi Harris, Jonathan Nolan, Francis Lawrence, and Ludwig Göransson. I think it's safe to say that Justin won because once it got to Aaron Sorkin, it was downhill from
Aaron
there.
Sorkin and then Sam Mendes. You're just like, all right.
He picked Aaron Sorkin and Sam Mendes back to back. So I mean you can't compete with that. Solid choices, man. Solid
Thank you.
choices.
Well, you too, I think. So
Thank you. Thank you. We're gonna go ahead and get out of here. That wraps it up for the first episode of the Studio Time relaunch, a part of the Culture Nerd Network. If you want to follow us, please go ahead and do that. Slap the like button if you're on YouTube. Subscribe, hit the notification bell. Um, follow me on Instagram and TikTok and Twitch at Studio Media. That's STEWDIO_media on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitch. And you can follow Justin at Cinema Heroes on Instagram. We also do the Cinema Heroes podcast where we discuss superheroes movies and superhero movies. So yeah, this was fun. I can't wait to do the next episode. But yeah, also go follow the Culture Nerd podcast on YouTube. My buddy Taylor Murphy over there, he's doing some great things. And that will be revitalized as well. So go subscribe to the Culture Nerd on YouTube and follow the Culture Nerd on IG. Like I said, this is a part of the Culture Nerd podcast network. Some great things will be coming to this podcast as well as the main Culture Nerd podcast. So be on the lookout for that. But we're gonna go ahead and get out of here, you guys. Everybody, have a good one.